Hello and welcome back to the Royals Review podcast, the Reading FC podcast, where we look at the highs and lows of the Royals, looking back at their most recent game and look ahead to the fixture against Bolton tonight. I'm Dan Worth and I'm joined as ever by Jimmy. Let's kick off with looking at Wimbledon then, Jim. 2-1 defeat for the Royals, Another home defeat. Not ideal, and we kind of identified this game as a game that Reading really should be winning if they were to be in and around the playoffs come the end of the season. We maybe don't need to be too dramatic and say that that's likelier or way more unlikely, but not ideal.
No, not at all. Poor performance, really. Like you said, I think everyone was expecting a little bit more compared to the previous previous two league games, and to sort of continue the good form and the impressive display that we saw against Pompey in the Cup, but it was not to be.
Yeah, absolutely. We were kind of a little bit positive. Well, I was particularly for the first time this season after the Pompey defeat, and I think this result brings me back down to earth quite nicely. Probably not nicely, but quite quickly. I guess I just want to get your thoughts on it, because to me, it's kind of a regurgitation of what we said last time we spoke. It just seems to be the same old from Reading that we've seen in the league so far, just not quite good enough, and therefore on the back of a loss.
Yeah. I mean, I thought we started okay, pretty good chance to take the lead. When Andre Garcia missed an open, or what looked to be a pretty much open goal after a quick break. I mean, it was a terrible miss, really, and unfortunate for him that he couldn't sort of continue his cup form and add a league goal to the tally. I thought, I don't know, on the counter, we actually got quite good. We kind of got to see how quick Danny Boy is on the break. He laid it off to Kelvin, who put it across goal, but the finish wasn't there. And then Wimbledon took the lead in half-time, 1-0 lead. I think it was in just after the 30th minute. It was a pretty good header after capitalising on a mistake just past the half-hour mark. So, a nice cross. I think it came from another ball straight over the top, so I'm sure we'll end up talking about sort of setup and tactics shortly. But yeah, didn't really look like we were going to get back into the game, to be honest, from that. There was a bit of pressure on the break, but I think Wimbledon stayed sort of in control and sort of always on the attack. And then after a pretty free kick routine, again, from another ball over the top we couldn't deal with, it was finished after a deflected pass Pereira. So yeah, another annoying mistake from the centre backs, which led to their 2-0 advantage. And then at the end, I'm sure everyone's seen it by now, but another worldie from Ping, long range back. But it just wasn't enough, really. So yeah, overall, like I said, poor performance. That's 3 on the bounce now. You know, fans already booing one off. So yeah, it was a game that we should really be winning, and I think it sort of just adds even more pressure on Hunt, the coaches, and the owners to deliver, because you know we're still sitting bottom of the table, or we're still sitting at the bottom of the table with 0 points, 1 league goal scored, and just no sign of improvement week on week. I know there's complaints that we've not got the team that we need, we've not got the striker that we need, but I think that's not sort of everything. There's a lot of stuff that we improve on, creating chances, defending, and that's on the coaches, that's on Hunt as well. I think an important one tonight, and we'll sort of see where things are.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, mate. I think like the one positive that I'm taking from it is that we did create a little bit more. But again, it goes back to what we've been saying so far this season. It's so frustrating that we don't take that approach, like we saw with the Garcia miss. It's like 3 nice passes, quick feet, and all of a sudden we're in open goal. And like, to be perfectly honest, Garcia should be doing much better there. I know he's young and whatever else, but that's pretty inexcusable in my book. And then we've just got a completely different game. If Reading go 1-0 up, it just spins the game on its head. And in fact, the opposite happened, and we end up going 1-0 down, and we're struggling to get back into the game. You mentioned the Lewis Wing goal. Yeah, obviously it's fantastic. Like, there's not really any more superlatives for Lewis Wing's like ability of shooting from outside the box. But like, if anything, it is actually starting to worry me a little bit how over reliant Reading are on Lewis Wing scoring worldies. It happened so often last season. It's the only goal we've scored in the league so far. If we are to go on and have a successful season, it's not sustainable for Lewis Wing to be the top scorer. I know that's probably an overreaction because, as I say, we've only scored one goal, but it does worry me a little bit that sort of over-reliance that Reading have on Lewis Wing literally pulling something out of thin air because he can hit it from 40 yards in the top corner almost every time, which, don't get me wrong, is fantastic. I love it. Every time it goes in, I'm retweeting everything and the like, but we do need to sharpen up elsewhere in our attacks, particularly, like, as I say, that Garcia miss, inexcusable. We need to be putting those away. But yeah, we did create chances, and like, you know, we sat here whenever it was last week saying that the big issue was creativity. Now, no disrespect to Wimbledon, obviously they beat us, so I'm not going to say anything too rogue, but they are slightly weaker opposition than we've probably faced so far in the league. So by default, you'd assume we'd create more chances, and we did. We had 13 big chances, but when you say those stats, you're like, oh great, 13 big chances, but we scored 0. Like, Lewis Wing's goal is not a big chance. So that needs to improve. And obviously, this chat that I'm having here is going to spark everyone into saying, well, yeah, the answer is really obvious. Let's just sign a striker. Yeah, like, probably correct. And I agree. But, you know, we've been saying that now since the start of the season. I'm sure we will sign a striker. I'm not trying to like scare anyone, but if we don't, we still need to improve. And I think Kelvin and Omani, etc., will need to sharpen up a little bit if this is to be a successful season. I wanted to briefly.
I agree.
Oh, go on. Yeah.
No, I was going to say that it is down to the players as well. Like, there's no doubt that there's their squads. There's no doubt that they've either done it at this level, or they've done it at a higher level, or they are, you know, they've got really great potential and they've come from academies that believe in that this is the right place for them to be. So yeah, it is on Hunt and the coaches to sort of get the best out of them, but you've got to be taking your chances at them. And yeah, I think the last game was just a perfect example of not doing that, and Wimble doing that to a T, really. I think both chances that we made, you know, they capitalised on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we already mentioned that, like, their first goal was such a big turning point. Garcia's miss is such a big turning point. It just makes it really difficult. Going 1-0 down against anyone, particularly a team that can shut off at the back like Wimbledon did, it's tough. I mean, like, realistically, in the context of the season, losing the first 3 games, that isn't necessarily the biggest deal. I know the players were quick to say last season we lost 3 on the bounce and went 12 unbeaten straight after. I think, like, that's all well and good, but I'd like to see some of that now. And to be honest, it doesn't get too much harder than going away to Bolton, obviously a place that we've really struggled over the last 2 seasons. But I think it's getting to the point where we kind of need to see an improvement from Reading. Otherwise, it's definitely not panic stations by any means. But yeah, real questions will start getting asked. And as you said, like, the fans are already starting to lose interest, and we're literally 3 weeks in. So something's got to change if things are to become a little bit more positive.
Definitely. Definitely.
Before we move on then, I just wanted to ask about the starting 11. Were there any surprises in Reading's starting 11 for you? Or is that sort of what you would have gone for, given we were already hampered slightly with injuries to Paddy Lane and Porty O'Connor?
Yeah, I think it was pretty much what I was expecting. Perhaps Ahmed not starting. I think when I said about the what my pretty starting 11 was on the last pod, I think I said I reckon that it would be a Brafer starting. Besides that, I don't really think there was any sort of standouts, differences. I mean, I can see why Ahmed started. He had a fantastic cup game. But yeah, I think it kind of just highlights that I'm not 100% sure if Hunt knows his best team yet, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I know we didn't have a huge preseason with all of the players together, so yeah, but no, not really any sort of standouts that I didn't expect to be there, I guess.
Yeah, that's completely fair enough. Same for me, to be honest. Well, I think the big thing for me, and again, I'm kind of spoilering what we're going to talk about when we preview Bolton, but that midfield three, I'm not too sure. Obviously, I think it's a very strong midfield, but I think Elliott has to play. I think he's definitely our most attacking and creative option in that midfield. And don't get me wrong, Wing has to play. Fraser, I've been really impressed with, and Charlie Savage runs for days. There's certainly not a knock on any of those three, but I think for balance, we need Ben Elliott to be starting in these games, and particularly against some of the lower teams, which he can just unlock. So I was quite surprised to see Elliott on the sidelines, to be honest. But yeah, I don't think anything else was a real surprise.
I think Hunt's sort of given himself a bit of a headache, really, with all the midfield signings and the midfield options that we have. Obviously, Fraser as a more defensive-minded midfield, which we definitely have been missing over the last 2 seasons or so. But I don't know, it's trying to shoehorn. It feels like everyone's sort of trying to get shoehorned in at the moment, rather than okay, we're coming up against this team. This is how they play. This is how we need to set the midfield up. So it all seems a little bit experimental still at the moment. But I guess we can't complain too much. We've got serious quality. I know we had a fantastic midfield last season, and yes, we've lost Nibs, but I feel like on paper we've probably, I don't want to say replaced it perfectly, because we all know how Nibs was last season and how pivotal he was, the way that we set up. But we've signed some pretty decent midfielders in Kamari Doyle, who obviously can play on the wings as well. Elliott coming back, we didn't really see much of last season, and obviously Fraser. So yeah, we just got to wait for it to click, I guess, or Hunt to get them all playing the way that he wants them to.
Yeah, no, you're hitting the nail on the head there. I think it's probably the first time since we've been doing this podcast, which is like a year or two, that I think Reading have actually had a bit of choice, particularly in the midfield. And it kind of feels a little bit weird because, so often last season, particularly, we just had what we had, that was it. Mm-hmm. But now we actually have multiple players in each role that can fit into different systems if we're coming up against different opponents that may attack in certain ways, etc., etc. So I mean, it's a great problem to have, but I'm with you. I don't think Hunt's quite sold on what his best three are in that midfield. And I'm also been quite surprised because everyone assumed that that bringing Fraser in would sort of release Lewis Wing into a bit more of an attacking role. And I'd argue, I mean, it definitely hasn't made him go deeper, because that's not possible. But I haven't really seen that yet. And I don't know if that's something that Hunt is against, or if we might see that come into fruition going forward. But yeah, that's been a little bit surprising for me. And I'm quite keen to see that, because as much as I was saying, we can't rely on him to score from outside the box. If he's in that position a lot more than you'd imagine, he scores a few more goals.
Yeah, exactly. I was having a discussion on Twitter earlier this week, and you can peep my Twitter page and you'll be able to find the little thread. But it's essentially like not a heat map, a map of all of his Wings shots that he's taken, and there is just such a concentrated area just on the just that box on the right hand side, where you've seen him hit the top corner countless times, and it would just be so good to get him into those positions more frequently, because there's a pretty good chance that it's going to end up in the back of the net.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, let's look forward then. Obviously, the game is tonight, so this is not going to have much shelf life on YouTube. But let's preview the Bolton game. We travel to the Toughsheet Stadium, which always makes me laugh. It's a great name for a stadium. A place, as I mentioned earlier, has not been a happy hunting ground for Reading. We've been on the back of 5-2 scalpings in our last 2 visits there, conceding obviously 10 goals in 2 games. I'd really love that not to be the case this evening. And I think Reading just have to be better at the back. We've conceded 2 goals in all 3 of our league games so far, which just needs to shore up if we're to making any improvements. And Bolton come into this game like not on fire. They lost 2-0 to Stockport. They beat Plymouth 2-0, who are, I guess, like us, in disarray at the moment and haven't managed to get any points on the board. And then drew last time out against Barnsley. So, as I say, not on fire. Do you reckon this is the time where Reading could go up there and grab a point, or maybe all 3?
I would love that. But like I said earlier, I've not really seen much to suggest that we're any better now than we were in the match against Lincoln. Going off of our record, I just don't think that I can see us getting anything really from this game. I think Bolton have made some pretty good signings. In fact, we was chatting earlier this week, weren't we? I think they 2 or 3 from the list of 5 that we suggested Reading sign. So knowing our luck, we'll see both of them on the score sheet tonight as well. But yeah, I think it will be another tough game up at Bolton.
Yeah, I do too. I think that, as you say, they recruited quite well. And I think their current form in League One is slightly not false, but if you look at their XG stats, they are towards the top. I think they're about 11th or something with 5 XG. They've only scored 3 goals, so that suggests to me that they are creating the chances and have not been able to find the back of the net as much as they would have liked. Which, coming up against us, is a slight worry because, one, as I say, we've conceded 2 goals in every league game so far this season. So you'd assume we're going to ship a few chances. But also, we're right down the bottom again for that metric. I think we've created just over 2 XG. Rotherham, the only team with slightly fewer than us. So if they're averaging over 1.5 XG and get on the score sheet, like you've got to assume we struggle, given that we've not even averaged 1 XG per game so far in the league, and have obviously only scored 1 goal, and that's from 40 yards or however far it is. So it does slightly worry me, and that brings me on to the starting 11 point. I'm just going to go with what I'm thinking. I've already tweeted it out actually. Is that I think we need to see Williams start here. I think we need to go with a bit of experience, and no disrespect to Stickland. I don't think he's been bad, but I think Williams and Burns might be our strongest available at the moment, and I'd probably go with Williams from the off alongside Burns, as I said, and then I'd probably go Jacob on the left back and Ahmed on the right. I'd then have Fraser sitting deep, Elliott and Wings slightly more advanced, and then Garcia, Omani, and Danny Boy. I do think a lot of the criticism, and I've given him some as well, on Omani is slightly harsh. I don't think he's quite had the chances, and I think with games coming thick and fast, we've got a game tonight, we've got a game Saturday, we've got a game next Tuesday, we're going to have to rotate, and I think maybe this is the one for Omani, an away trip and another chance to get on the score sheet and hopefully sort of start to build his confidence. I'm assuming by your face you completely disagree with me, so let's hear what your starting 11 would be.
No, to be honest, I pretty much agree with everything. Yeah, I think I'd probably just go with a Brafer. I don't think Ahmed was particularly good against Wimbledon, and I don't see how he would be any better going in against a more experienced Bolton side. Midfield, I agree. Yeah, got to get Elliott in. Obviously, Wing going to be first name on the sheet. He's not going anywhere. And then shore it up with a bit with Fraser sitting a little bit deeper, and then Danny Boy. I still think he's going to be a fantastic player. I had a little vision earlier of him rounding the keeper and winning it. So I might have to stick a fiver on that as well. But we'll see if that actually happens. I'd actually go with Kelvin and Omani up top. Probably drop Garcia or have him come on as a bit of like an impact sub, because he's got legs and pace for days. So yeah, seeing him come up against some tired defenders rather than starting would probably be my option. And then just going back to the centre halves, I agree. Williams should come. I think Burns. I think Burns and Stickland are just very similar. I know Burns has got a bit more sort of aerial presence, but there's no denying that they've both made like stupid mistakes, and they've both been at fault for goals so far. So I think Burns probably just gets in. But yeah, there's nothing to suggest that it could be either one of those two, to be honest.
Yeah, it sounds like we're kind of singing from the same hymn sheet there, really. So let us know what you think, what changes you'd make in the comments or on social when we post this, because I'm keen to hear. And as Reading fans get a bit more frustrated, everyone's obviously got quite a strong opinion. So I'm interested to see what you guys think. Well, before we head off, then I suppose it's time for some score predictions. Reading away from home, travelling to Bolton. What score are you going for?
3-1 to Bolton. The one goal coming from Danny Boy, of course.
Yeah, you're sticking to that vision that you've had. Yeah, you know what? I should have thought about this before we went live, and I haven't. But particularly going through this, doing research, I am not feeling very confident. The 2-5-2 defeats in the last two trips up there on their own are enough to put me off backing a Reading win. But we've been so poor going forward, and we've been conceding relatively freely. So I'm just going to go with another 2-0 defeat, to be honest. I hope that's not the case.
Yeah,
Score sheet, and the longer the sort of goal drought for our forward players goes on, the worse it's going to be. So it would be nice to see Omani and Kelvin, whoever else play up top, Danny Boy, if needs be, just get on the score sheet and kickstart the season. Because another loss to nil would be a bit of a disaster. But hopefully, when we catch up next time, we'll be in a better mood after Reading have scored loads of goals and maybe even got a point or three. One last question there that has just come in, actually, that I want to get your opinion on. We've obviously given our score predictions now, so it might be a bit of a giveaway. But what do you think a successful or a good result / performance is at Bolton?
I think a successful is obviously a win, but I think there's still a lot of factors that are playing into how we're performing at the moment, which we went through earlier on the podcast. The main thing that I want to see is just improvements all around the pitch. I want to see that Hunt's the manager. I guess, having such a limited squad last season, did the decisions he had to make. Like we mentioned about picking your midfielders, he didn't have that luxury last season, but now he does, and I'm not sure if he's getting that correct every time. So I want to see some decisions that are being made and are paying off on the pitch. Just improvements all around. You mentioned Elliott. I think loads of fans this week have mentioned Elliott. I can't see how you can leave him out. Like especially when we're lacking creativity. Like he is the key to unlocking that. So he needs to start. I just want to see some decisions being made and the results of that paying off. If we end up losing, but we put in a massive performance that you may think, if we had a striker, that would have been an easy win for us. Then I guess that would be a good performance. But I mean, we need to get points on the board. I'd be more happy with a draw right now. But why not get a win? I guess like we saw what it was like against Portsmouth. I think nobody had that much hope, and we walked out 2-0 winners and were pretty comfortable. So the squad can do it. It's just over to them, really. What about you?
Yeah. To be honest, I think a draw is a good result. I just, as I sort of mentioned, I just really want to see us be a lot more threatening going forward and keep a clean sheet. So basically, I just want us to be amazing. But I am slightly concerned at how freely we're conceding, and also we're just not scoring. Like I think it's the worst of both worlds. So if we could address one of those things, either keeping it tight and get a 0-0 draw, I'll be very happy with. If we can get the score sheet, get a 1-1 draw, be very happy with. Obviously, if we win, it's the best case scenario. But yeah, I think just go up there, be very creative, and be tight at the back is pretty much all we can ask at this stage. So hopefully they do go and do that, and a Portsmouth-esque performance would be more than welcome. And I think we've spoken about how tough it is to go there in our previous record on that. But if on the flip side, if you think we go up there and get 3 points, that puts us in great stead to go to Wickham. When's that? Is it next Saturday? I can't even think of. Oh, it's this Saturday, obviously.
This Saturday. Yeah.
All of a sudden, with 3 points the relegation zone, it's completely different.
Yeah, that's the thing with games coming like thick and fast. Then in a week's time, the table can look completely different. And it's 3 on the bounce. But if we go on to win our next 5 or not lose any out of our next 5, then that would be looking pretty good. I think we just need to start getting points on the board.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Right, that brings us to a close then. Thanks very much for joining me, Jim. And thanks very much to you guys for listening at home. However you're listening, please do like, subscribe, follow across X, YouTube, TikTok, anywhere you can find us. It really helps. And obviously we want to reach as many Royals fans as we possibly can. It's another massive week for Reading. The transfer window deadline day is fast approaching. We've got 3 games in 7 days. So fingers crossed Noel Hunt can pull his finger out a bit and Reading can get some points on the board. We'll speak to you after the Bolton game. Hopefully we're talking about a win. But until then, come on you all.